A teenager ingested 187 vitamin C tablets. And this is what happened to his liver. Lucas, a 16-year-old high school student, had always been passionate about his physical fitness. As the day of an important athletic competition approached, his determination to excel reached an all-time high. He spent countless hours researching various methods to improve his performance, seeking out tips from online fitness influencers who promised quick results. It was during one of these late-night research sessions that he stumbled upon a video claiming that a megadose of vitamin C could drastically boost immunity and overall performance. The idea intrigued Lucas. What if this was the secret to outshining his competitors? What if this simple vitamin could be the key to achieving the physical peak he so desperately wanted? With this thought firmly planted in his mind, he made a decision that would soon put his life in danger. Driven by the influencer's confident advice and his own fear of failure, Lucas decided to experiment. The night before the competition, he swallowed 187 vitamin C tablets in one go, believing it would fortify his body against any possible illness and enhance his stamina. As he washed down the last of the pills with a glass of water, a sense of invincibility washed over him. He felt like he had found a shortcut to success, a hack that no one else knew about. However, what Lucas didn't realize was that he had just set the stage for a medical crisis. That night, as he lay in bed, his stomach began to churn, but he dismissed the discomfort, attributing it to pre-competition jitters. Little did he know that within a few hours, his life would take a terrifying turn. The next morning, Lucas woke up feeling far from invincible. Instead of the energy surge he expected, he was greeted by a sharp pain in his abdomen, waves of nausea, and a troubling sense of disorientation. His skin had taken on a strange yellowish hue, and his eyes, once bright and focused, were now clouded and dull. Alarmed by his sudden deterioration, his parents rushed him to the emergency room. As Lucas lay on the hospital bed, clutching his stomach in agony, his parents anxiously explained to the medical team what had happened. The severity of the situation became immediately apparent to the doctors, who quickly connected the dots between Lucas's symptoms and the massive overdose of vitamin C. The vibrant teenager who had been so full of life and ambition just a day before was now fighting to stay conscious, his body overwhelmed by the very supplement he had thought would be his savior. As Lucas lay on the hospital bed, the emergency room buzzed with activity. Nurses moved quickly, attaching monitors to his chest and inserting an IV line into his arm. His vital signs were concerning. His blood pressure was elevated, his heart rate was erratic, and his skin was still tinged with that unnatural yellow. The attending physician, Dr. Michaels, took a moment to assess the situation. "We need to run a full panel," he instructed the team. Blood samples were swiftly taken, and Lucas was sent for an abdominal ultrasound. As his parents watched helplessly, Dr. Michaels explained that the excessive amount of vitamin C Lucas had ingested was likely causing acute liver damage, a condition that could rapidly escalate if not treated immediately. The initial blood test results came back, and they were alarming. Lucas's liver enzymes were through the roof, indicating significant hepatic stress. His bilirubin levels were dangerously high, explaining the jaundice. The ultrasound confirmed the worst. Lucas's liver was swollen and inflamed, a clear sign of hepatomegaly. Dr. Michaels knew they were dealing with a severe case of toxic hepatitis, brought on by the overdose of vitamin C. While vitamin C is generally considered safe in moderate doses, Lucas's extreme intake had overwhelmed his liver's ability to metabolize the substance, leading to a toxic buildup. The liver, often described as the body's chemical factory, was now in overdrive, unable to keep up with the massive influx of ascorbic acid. Dr. Michaels ordered additional tests to rule out other potential causes of liver failure, but the focus remained on managing the acute toxicity. As the hours passed, Lucas's condition continued to deteriorate. He became increasingly disoriented, slipping in and out of consciousness. The medical team worked tirelessly, administering fluids to flush out the excess vitamin C and monitoring his liver function closely. Discussions about more aggressive interventions, such as dialysis or even a liver transplant, began to surface as Lucas's situation grew more precarious. Dr. Michaels gathered Lucas's parents in a quiet corner of the emergency room. explaining the gravity of the situation. "Your son is in critical condition," he said, his voice calm but laced with concern. "We're doing everything we can to stabilize him, but the next few hours will be crucial." Lucas's parents, their faces pale with fear, nodded silently. They had never imagined that a simple vitamin could wreak such havoc on their son's body. As they stood by Lucas's bedside, holding his hand and praying for his recovery, the reality of the situation began to sink in. Their son's life hung in the balance, and there was little they could do but wait and hope. The situation had grown more intense as the minutes ticked by. Lucas's body was fighting a losing battle against the overdose, and the medical team had to make swift decisions. Dr. Michaels, after consulting with his colleagues, decided it was time to escalate the treatment. They began by administering high-dose intravenous fluids in an attempt to speed up the elimination of the excess vitamin C through Lucas's kidneys. However, Lucas's urine output was minimal, signaling that his kidneys were also under strain. The team then introduced medications to support his liver function, aiming to mitigate the damage caused by the toxic overload. Despite these efforts, Lucas's liver enzyme levels continued to rise, and his mental status declined further, indicating that hepatic encephalopathy, a condition where the brain is affected by liver failure, was setting in. The room was filled with tension as Lucas's parents watched the flurry of activity around their son. His mother, tears streaming down her face, gripped his hand tightly, while his father stood by, his face etched with worry. Dr. Michaels, sensing the gravity of the moment, took a deep breath and approached them with a difficult conversation. "We need to discuss the possibility of more advanced interventions," he began. "Lucas's liver is struggling to cope with the damage, and if we don't see improvement soon, we may need to consider dialysis or even preparing for a potential liver transplant." The words hit like a sledgehammer. A liver transplant was a last resort option, one that brought with it a host of additional risks and challenges. The idea that their healthy, athletic son could be facing such a dire situation was almost too much to bear. Meanwhile, Lucas's condition continued to decline. His consciousness faded in and out, and he became increasingly unresponsive to stimuli. The medical team was now in a race against time. They initiated dialysis, hoping to relieve some of the burden on his liver by filtering his blood externally. However, the process was not without its own risks, and the team had to carefully monitor Lucas's vital signs throughout. The hours dragged on, filled with uncertainty and fear. As night fell, the hospital room was bathed in the soft glow of monitors and 4 machines, the steady beeping of Lucas's heart monitor providing a tenuous link to hope. Dr. Michaels remained vigilant, checking on Lucas frequently, adjusting treatments as necessary, and reassuring his parents as best he could. But the truth was, the outcome was still far from certain. The next few hours would determine whether Lucas's body could recover from the massive insult it had endured, or if they would need to prepare for the unthinkable, a life forever changed by a single tragic mistake. As the night wore on, Lucas's condition remained critical, and the tension in the hospital room was palpable. The dialysis had provided some relief, reducing the burden on his liver, but his vital signs were still unstable. Dr. Michaels, who had been monitoring Lucas closely, knew that they were approaching a crucial point in his treatment. He gathered the team for a quick briefing. "We need to maintain aggressive supportive care while keeping a close eye on his neurological status," he instructed. "Any further signs of deterioration, and we'll have to consider more invasive measures." The team nodded, fully aware of the gravity of the situation. Every action they took now was a calculated effort to stabilize Lucas, but the uncertainty of his recovery loomed large. Outside the intensive care unit, Lucas's parents sat in the waiting room, their hands intertwined, their faces marked by exhaustion and fear. They had been through an emotional roller coaster, from the initial shock of his overdose to the ongoing battle to save his life. Dr. Michaels approached them with an update, his expression somber but still hopeful. "Lucas is holding on, but we're not out of the woods yet," he said gently. "The dialysis is helping, but his liver is still severely compromised. We're continuing to monitor him closely, and we're doing everything we can." His words, though reassuring, couldn't fully dispel the fear that gripped them. They were living every parent's worst nightmare. Their son was in a fight for his life, and all they could do was wait and pray. Back in the ICU, Lucas's condition began to show the first tentative signs of improvement. His liver enzyme levels, though still elevated, had stopped climbing, and there was a slight decrease in his bilirubin levels, indicating that the dialysis was helping his liver begin to recover. However, he was still deeply unconscious, his brain struggling under the effects of hepatic encephalopathy. The medical team decided to continue the current treatment plan, balancing cautious optimism with the reality of the situation. They knew that while the signs of recovery were promising, Lucas was not yet out of danger. The next few days would be critical in determining whether his liver could heal and whether he would wake up without any long-term neurological damage. For now, they maintained their vigil, hoping that each small improvement would lead to a full recovery, and that Lucas's story would become one of resilience and survival against overwhelming odds. As dawn broke, the first rays of sunlight filtered through the hospital windows, casting a soft glow over the room where Lucas lay motionless. The machines surrounding him hummed quietly, monitoring every aspect of his fragile condition. Dr. Michaels, who had stayed through the night, carefully reviewed the latest lab results and noted with cautious optimism that Lucas's liver function had stabilized further. His enzyme levels were gradually decreasing, and his kidneys were beginning to respond to the treatment, showing an increase in urine output, a positive sign that the toxins were being flushed from his system. Despite these improvements, Lucas remained unconscious, and the specter of permanent damage still hung over him like a dark cloud. In the quiet moments between the flurry of medical tasks, Lucas's parents sat by his bedside, taking turns talking to him, hoping that their voices would reach him through the fog of his condition. His mother whispered stories from his childhood, recounting memories of happier, carefree times, while his father spoke about the upcoming athletic competitions Lucas had been so eager to participate in. They clung to these conversations as a lifeline, a way to connect with their son and pull him back from the brink. The medical team encouraged them, explaining that familiar voices could help stimulate Lucas's brain and might play a role in his recovery. Yet every moment of silence was a reminder of the uncertainty that lay ahead, a reminder that Lucas was still in a precarious state. As the day progressed, the medical team decided to gradually reduce the sedation to see if Lucas could regain consciousness. It was a delicate process, requiring constant monitoring to ensure that his body could handle the change. Dr. Michaels and the nurses gathered around, watching for any signs of responsiveness. At first, there was nothing. Lucas remained still, his breathing steady but unchanging. But then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, his eyelids fluttered. The team held their breath, and then, to their immense relief, Lucas's eyes opened. They were unfocused and glazed, but it was a sign of life, a sign that Lucas was beginning to emerge from the depths of his coma. His parents, overwhelmed with emotion, leaned in close, calling his name softly, their voices trembling with hope. It was the first true glimmer of recovery, a moment that brought with it a mixture of joy and continued anxiety. Lucas had taken a step back from the edge, but the journey to full recovery was still far from over. The team knew that the days ahead would be filled with challenges, as they worked to ensure that Lucas would not only survive, but also reclaim the life that had been so suddenly and brutally disrupted. Over the next few days, Lucas's progress continued, albeit slowly. The medical team maintained a careful balance between optimism and caution, knowing that while his liver was showing signs of recovery, the road ahead was still fraught with potential complications. Lucas was gradually weaned off the ventilator, and his breathing stabilized on its own, a significant milestone in his recovery. However, his mental state remained fragile. He drifted in and out of consciousness, his responses often slow and confused. The specter of hepatic encephalopathy still lingered, and the doctors were vigilant, monitoring for any signs that the damage to his brain might be more permanent. Lucas's parents were a constant presence at his bedside, their relief tempered by the anxiety of what the future might hold. They spoke to him constantly, encouraging him to fight, to keep pushing through the fog that clouded his mind. Slowly, Lucas began to respond more consistently. He started recognizing his parents, squeezing their hands weakly when they spoke to him. The moments of lucidity became more frequent, and with them came a renewed sense of hope. The medical team began introducing physical therapy to prevent muscle atrophy from his extended bed rest, and Lucas, though weak, showed determination to cooperate. It was a testament to the strength that had driven him in his athletic pursuits, now redirected towards his recovery. As Lucas continued to stabilize, Dr. Michael sat down with Lucas's parents to discuss the long-term outlook. "Lucas has made remarkable progress," he began, his tone serious but encouraging. "His liver function is improving, and he's showing signs of neurological recovery. However, we need to be prepared for the possibility of lasting effects from the encephalopathy. Cognitive and physical rehabilitation will be crucial in the coming months." The news, while not entirely unexpected, was still a blow. The reality that Lucas might never fully return to his previous self was a difficult one to accept. But his parents, buoyed by the small victories they had witnessed over the past days, were resolute. They would do whatever it took to help their son recover, no matter how long it took or how challenging the road ahead might be. Weeks passed, and Lucas's condition continued to improve. He was moved out of the ICU to a regular hospital room, where the focus shifted from acute care to rehabilitation. The physical therapy sessions intensified, and Lucas, though still weak, showed a fierce determination to regain his strength. His cognitive functions also improved, though the progress was uneven. There were days when Lucas was sharp and alert, able to engage in conversations and even joke with his parents. But there were also days when the fog returned, leaving him confused and frustrated. These setbacks were difficult, but the medical team assured his family that this was a normal part of recovery, emphasizing the importance of patience and persistence. The day finally came when Lucas was well enough to be discharged from the hospital. It was a moment of celebration, but also one tempered with the knowledge that the journey was far from over. Lucas still faced months, if not years, of rehabilitation to fully recover from the damage his body had sustained. As they prepared to leave, Dr. Michaels met with Lucas and his parents one last time. "You've come a long way, Lucas," he said with a smile. "But remember, this is just the beginning. Your recovery will continue at home, and it will require just as much effort as you've shown here." Lucas nodded, his expression serious. He knew he had been given a second chance, and he was determined to make the most of it. As Lucas and his parents walked out of the hospital, the weight of the experience hung over them, but so did a sense of profound gratitude. They had been through a nightmare, but they had come out the other side, stronger and more united than ever. Lucas's ordeal had taught them all a valuable lesson about the dangers of misinformation and the importance of making informed decisions about one's health. They were determined to share this lesson with others, to prevent anyone else from going through what Lucas had endured. As they drove home, the future seemed uncertain, but also full of possibilities. Lucas had a long road ahead, but with the support of his family and the strength he had shown in the face of adversity, they knew he would make it through. The story of Lucas is a poignant reminder of the dangers of self-medication and the powerful influence of misinformation, especially among young people. What started as a misguided attempt to improve athletic performance nearly ended in tragedy, highlighting the need for greater awareness about the risks associated with extreme behaviors. Lucas's recovery, while remarkable, also underscores the importance of early medical intervention and the critical role of comprehensive care in managing such emergencies. His journey from the brink of disaster to a new beginning serves as a powerful testament to resilience and the human spirit's capacity to overcome even the most daunting challenges. As we conclude Lucas's story, it's important to reflect on the lessons learned. The pressure to excel, especially in today's fast-paced, competitive world, can sometimes lead to dangerous decisions. It's crucial for young people, parents, and educators to foster an environment where health and safety are prioritized over quick fixes and shortcuts. Moreover, the role of healthcare professionals in educating the public cannot be overstated. By providing accurate information and debunking harmful myths, they can help prevent similar incidents and promote healthier, more informed choices. I want to remind you not to forget to subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue to bring you these important and inspiring stories. And don't miss out on the next chapter of our journey. Just click on the video appearing on your screen to watch the next story. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.